What you are looking at here, dear viewers, is someone who did not fulfill their quota on time. Their hands have been sliced off at the wrist, and their head has been cut off and replaced with a coil. And this is just one of the many ways you can meet your end if you fail Lethal Company. This is Mike, and after the joys of being crushed to death inside of Freddy Fazbear's suit and turning into a necromorph from Dead Space, he's on the lookout for a new career path. And as luck would have it, he's just landed a new job scavenging scrap far out in space. Come along, dear viewers, and let's see how Mike does in his new job. As always, I'm sure it'll all be fine. But while Mike uses his compensation from the CDC to buy himself a flashlight and a radio and set off for the first salvage site, let's provide some context for those not familiar with the lore. Now, Lethal Company is still an early access game, and while some lore elements are already implemented, the game is still very much in the development phase. You can expect more of the lore and story to be flushed out as time goes on. Anyway, Lethal Company takes place in the far future where pockets of humanity have set up shop and industrialized far reaches of the galaxy. Some shit went down, and an unknown event caused many of the industrial zones to be abandoned, and now the various derelict factories, warehouses and complexes are completely abandoned. A mysterious organization known only as the Company offers monetary gain for those brave enough, desperate enough, or just stupid enough to venture into these hellholes to find valuable salvage and bring it back. Now, absent anything resembling a union, the poor souls that take on this gig are in for a rough time. For starters, they need to purchase most of their own essential gear. Even the most basic of equipment such as a torch and a walkie-talkie are not provided, even though both are pretty essential. Annoyingly, both tools hold only a limited charge, which can only be replenished at the landing craft. So if one of the members finds themselves arse deep in a factory and their torch runs out of juice, then they better start playing Marco Polo and hope their buddies can hear them. In order to fulfill their quota and get paid, the group will need to take the plunge into the abandoned buildings and bring valuable salvage back to the landing craft before the deadline is reached and the ship fucks off. Now, unless there is someone inside the landing craft monitoring the time, the team aren't going to know when it's time to leave, because watches are just too expensive in the future apparently. Just before leaving, the ship will say something like, "Right, I'm about to head off, so you guys might want to look a bit lively and get your asses back here quick." Now, if you're near the entrance, it's no biggie, but if you're 12 floors deep in the shit with a 1% charge on your torch, you're in trouble. You might not have enough time to get back before the ship leaves. Also, the monsters. Imagine the love child of a bunch of SCPs and several normal everyday things. So you'll see a giant fuck-off spider that gets the hump if you trample its web, a knockoff SCP-173 with a bobblehead, SCP-939 on steroids, and a wormy facehugger, to name just a few. There are also some stationary threats such as autonomous machine gun turrets and landmines. Some of the doors are locked, and there are even environmental factors that can challenge your progress. The most basic problem is time. As the day gets later, the enemies get tougher and more numerous. Other problems can include busted pipes that shroud an area in steam, making it near impossible to see any approaching monsters, fatal drops that require a leap of faith to progress further, and an eclipse which makes even daytime navigation a perilous endeavour. Fortunately, a crew member on the ship can monitor the team, open locked doors, temporarily disable turrets and monitor enemy movements, and relay all of this back to the team via their radios, as long as they still have a charge. The team will have 3 days to scavenge enough scrap to meet their quota target before they then have to toddle off back to the company to hand in what they have collected. But if they fail to meet their quota or if everyone dies, then it's all over. Mission failed. Right, now that we have a basic understanding of what's going on, let's get back to Mike. Mike rocked gently in his seat as the G-forces shook the descending landing craft. He unceremoniously fell from his seat as the craft landed roughly on the moon's surface. His colleagues laughed but came over to help him up and ensure his suit was undamaged. The leader elected to stay with the ship to monitor the exploration team. How typical, Mike thought. The fact that the boss was delegating the actual labour to his subordinates was not lost on him. He grunted, but followed the other two outside. Mike stepped out and pointed to an alcove that was bristling with activity. He confirmed with his team that the activity was a colony of circuit bees before retreating in panic as the bees moved to attack him, arcs of electricity striking out from within the swarm. After swatting away some harmless locusts and navigating the narrow passages between the rocks, the trio finally found themselves standing there before a monolithic, if run down, factory, surrounded by rusted silos. A flock of manticoils flew in circles around the towering chimney, looking down with curiosity at the men below. They squawked, but did not investigate. The rusted hinges on the double doors screeched in protest as they were pushed open for the first time in months, possibly even years. The men took out their radios and flashlights and confirmed with their leader they could hear them before pushing into the building. This place had seen better days. Broken pipes spewed steam and unknown fluids across the floor. Metal panels lay strewn about. Entire gantry platforms stood at an angle, their supports long since broken. The leader remotely unlocked a door for the group, but Mike was violently wrenched backwards by his colleagues before he could step through. Right in front of the door on the floor sat a landmine, armed and ready to blow. The group took care to step well clear of the device as they progressed further. Barely a minute later and the trio were now diving for cover as a hailstorm of bullets peppered the walls around them. Mike dusted the concrete dust off his neck and peered out from behind the crumbling wall to see a laser scanning the corridor looking for its target. It was welded to the top of a menacing looking machine gun. The leader came back over the radio offering to try and hack the turret, but the trio decided on a new path and soon found themselves in a storage room. Finally some salvage. They began searching for valuable items using a handheld scanner and placing them by the door. A skittering sound interrupted them. Over the radio, the team leader called out a warning that he was seeing movement and it was coming their way. The team stood with their backs against the wall looking towards the doorway. The skittering sound was very close now. It was right outside the door. Mike jumped a foot in the air as a hoarding bug fell from the vent above him. It scuttled towards the scrap, picked up a circuit board, and disappeared into the darkness. Mike swore. That was a lot of credits that thing had just scuttled away with. The trio picked up the parts that were left and began heading back. They unknowingly took a wrong turn and ventured down a new corridor. Two white eyes stared at them from the darkness and Mike's torch revealed a bracken standing before them. Someone screamed, and Mike stepped backwards, knocking into the others, causing everyone to drop their salvage. The men took off down another corridor, leaving the salvage behind, despite the leader commanding them to go back and pick it up. Mike gladly did the same, running after the other two. Another cry came from ahead and Mike was shocked to see one of his colleagues writhing on the floor with a snare flea wrapped around his head. He and the other men began striking and kicking the creature until it released the man. Mike gave it a final kick and it slithered away into the darkness out of sight. The gasping man jumped to his feet and began patting himself down like he was on fire, thinking some part of the creature might still be on him. Mike's words of assurance fell on deaf ears as the man stumbled backwards, landing on a bed of sticky strands. Mike moved to retrieve him, but something else beat him to it. A huge arachnid dropped from the ceiling and seized the man, its fangs disappearing into his torso. The other guy bolted. Mike offered the dying man an apology before abandoning him too, ignoring his pleas. The leader was screaming over the radio, but neither of them were listening. The two barged their way into another room and came face to face with a huge spore lizard. Its massive mouth opened to reveal lines of teeth, and then its tail swung around and exploded into a dense cloud of pink spores. Mike could just about make out the silhouette of the creature as it ran away. A new sound was now echoing off the walls. A thudding sound. It grew closer and louder. The leader made his voice heard again over the radio, ordering the two to retrieve what they could and get back to the ship. The ship would be leaving at midnight. That was their deadline. Mike only half heard what the leader was saying, instead being more interested in the shape getting larger through the spore cloud. Mike could just about distinguish the outline of a thumper dragging its way towards them. It roared and it charged them. Mike dropped his radio and the two sprinted away with the creature quickly approaching. It was fast and gaining on them quickly. Mike saw his colleague fall in his peripheral and turned to see the creature bludgeon the man's face and body into an incomprehensible mass of broken meat as he fled deeper into the halls. Mike slowly inched backwards towards what he hoped was the door. In front of him stood a coil head. A tall, armless mannequin with a coil for a head stared at him, willing him to blink or look away. A giggle echoed around the room, and the briefest of images of what looked like a little girl in a red dress appeared to his left. As soon as he looked, she was gone, and the coil creature was right in front of him. He screamed and fell to the floor. Another blink and the creature loomed over him, its emotionless face staring down. Mike shuffled backwards through the doorway and kicked the door closed. He looked into the creature's dead eyes pressed up against the glass. Another blink and it was gone. He could hear the creature hastily retreating, looking for another way to get to him. Mike could see the door ahead. A glance over his shoulder confirmed that thing was still running after him, a massive skull with ropes of flesh and sinew sticking out the top of a jack-in-the-box. It was right behind him, its roar in his ears. He could feel the vibrations from its steps rippling up through his legs. He summoned the last of his energy and charged into the door, which thankfully collapsed, and Mike was hurled out into the night. Mike crouched low and began skirting around the large eyeless dog in front of him. His boot regrettably kicked a metal pipe which clanged across the rocky ground, causing the creature to turn towards him. Its mouth opened to reveal rows of teeth, and a piercing scream left its throat. The ground heaved as it bounded towards him, homing in on the source of the noise. Suddenly, the rock split in two as a colossal leviathan erupted out of the ground, scooping up the dog and disappearing behind a hill. Mike seized the opportunity and sprinted towards the landing craft in the distance, only to find it was gone. He had missed his deadline, and the leader had left without him. A monumental groan shook the land, and Mike looked around and up to see a giant humanoid reaching down. A forest keeper. Mike didn't even try to fight back this time. He was tired. He closed his eyes as the giant picked him up and dropped him into its open mouth. Check out this video for another great story, and be sure to give this video a like if you made it this far. It really helps the channel. And thank you to Ryan Brenner, Techno Ninja, Infinite Tune, Aviga, Andre Bachert, and Matthew Duncan.